It began my freshman year of high school, floating on a bright yellow kayak somewhere deep in the Mississippi marsh. I carried a camcorder, trying to capture what I could. The hush of the wind, the slow rhythm of waves against the smooth cord grass, the way a pelican disappears just as you press record. I thought I was filming scenery, but something else was unfolding in these quiet hours. Drifting between sun and shadow, I began to see it. A symphony. Ignored. Not above the water, but beneath it. Not loud, but steady and so easy to miss. This realization widened my gaze from the quiet murk of the marsh to the wild churn of the Gulf, revealing patterns etched in the movement of inshore and offshore fish and the fine, familiar details of species I've come to know. I set out to make a film about the surface of things, but what I found was the world beneath the surface. It all traces back to the quietest room in my grandma's house, the one at the front where my father once grew up, where the walls hold decades of happiness, of sorrow and stories, and it was there, at a little table beneath the window, that my journey into stillness began, into noticing and to remembering. After long days on the Gulf, I would return with salt still in my skin to the old shop behind the house, my grandmother's world. Still smells of cedar and oil paint. That's where she built her life letter by letter, painting signs for people passing through. And it's where she first taught me how to press ink to scale many years ago, learning the ritual of Gyotaku. A soft layer of ink, careful as breath, and fabric laid gently over flesh to hold the memory forever. Then, hand detailed to match the hatch to the best of my ability. Framed in soft wood, once towering trees, now shaped to cradle the image of swordfish from 1,000 feet beneath the surface. The deep held in the green, the ocean remembered in the rings of a tree. And it's there that it continues. Salt, ink, memory, stillness. Even as my life moves fast, never steady, never predictable, I return to that stillness. The ground beneath me may shift, unlike the moon's faithful phases, but like something breaking loose. And still, the marsh rises green in spring and fades gold in the fall. The redfish return, the Gulf still regenerates. Nature does not rush, it does not question the cycle. It remembers, it repeats. In its rhythm, we find something we've lost. A steadiness, a way back to ourselves. The constant clockwork of the natural world is not linear, it's cyclical. Nature doesn't need us to keep turning, but perhaps we need it to remember how. So, I created my cycle. In pressing fish to fabric, I began to notice the quiet intricacies that life in motion keeps hidden. This stillness of Gyotaku reveals many of nature's secrets. I began to understand that so much of the natural world exists in quiet detail, and things easily missed, unless we slow down enough to truly see it. Yellowfin tuna, forged in speed, fins arced like blades, golden yellow as if the sun left streaks behind, and brushed with deep navy. Touched in golden flashes, yellow-edged grouper come from the hush of hiding places, shown by the scrapes of limestone halls they once inhabited. Scales, mapped in delicate relief, patterns no human hand could ever truly replicate. I longed to take in every detail, every gesture of life these fish carried. I expanded my fishing practice across many of the Gulf's islands and currents, studying the cyclical patterns of how these fish survived and eventually passed through my hands, creating a brief but vivid translation of nature's rhythm. To remember a fish by the season of offerings and a stillness in the motion of life. Here is a fraction of what I gathered over the years. This Gulf dweller is born to the stillness of the marsh. Slow, brackish waters laced with smooth cord, black needle rush, and oyster shells. Here, they learn the language of tides, how the moon pulls the water like breath, and how bait fish scatter just before a strike. Carrying a dark, circular mark near the tail, a trick of evolution, meant to mislead predators, drawing attention away from the head and toward the expendable end. As summer deepens, the marsh begins to shift. The tides grow louder, fuller, and a deep ancestral pull begins to stir, following it seaward past mudflats and cuts, and to channels that feed the open Gulf. By late summer and into early fall, those once quiet marshes empty into coastal waters, where the giants wait. Old, bronze-bodied redfish, blunt-nosed and battle-worn, gathering in massive spawning schools just offshore near barrier islands and passes. Here, the redfish are called to carry on the cycle, to release thousands of eggs into the turning tides, each one suspended in salt and light, drifting back toward the estuaries they once called home. The circle begins again, quietly, invisibly.
Hold the chair you never see until they disappear, and you fall to the ground. I'm the coat that shields the rain, to keep you dry. You never will complain. You don't need me in the sun, and I can't feel
The speckled trout stirs in silver, born of brine and moon-pooled tides, haunting the cuts, the oyster bars, and grass beds thick and currents slow, drifting alongside mullet in search of a next meal. The backs, holding an olive dusk shade spotted with stars caught just before night. They feed with urgency, a sudden flick, to prepare for cool waters and thinning daylight, eventually following the deep channels clinging through winter in the warmth of the muddy depths, patiently waiting for spring. Come May, these fish ride the tides to estuaries and islands, stretched far and wide, spawning beneath the gentle moon, releasing speckled young in salted space, alone, to find grass beds to call home and learn the rhythm. Like a leaf, floating by design, sideways amongst the sun-baked slicks and drifting debris. Three tails fin like feathers torn, using photoreceptors to camouflage, a trick of form to hide in plain sight. They hover near channel markers, near crab pots, and even fish carcasses, seemingly motionless, becoming just another shadow amongst shadows. Waiting for a bait fish or shrimp to make the wrong move. Tripletail ride the offshore tide weeds, letting the ocean carry them. A fish of cunning patience through lessons in pause, and how to vanish into the calm in order to survive. I learned the offshore gulf slowly, by moon, by current, by the quiet signs fish leave behind. Grouper stay close to structure, tucked into wrecks and limestone ledges, cultivating their own territory of a house, alongside Bertulas and red snapper, built thick with patience, feeding only when the tide gets right. Swordfish drift deeper, rising by night, drawn to scattering squid, then sinking by day, their lives unfolding in pressure and dark, their bodies etched in copper, obsidian, and blue steel. Wahoo come like lightning, sharp and sudden, racing edge waters where blue meets green, and circling oil rigs, always striking sideways with impossible speed, and beeliners, small, bright, and schooling. Each species, a different rhythm. Each pattern learned not in a book. These fish don't live by our clock. They remind you how little you control and how much you might come to understand if you listen long enough, if you go deep enough, if you return again and again to the places where the surface forgets. In just 4 short years of focused study for this film, I've come to know a few of the Gulf's underwater wonders, and yet, not just as specimens or prints, but as quiet teachers, offering lessons through scale and silence. Each fish is a world unto itself. Scales like stories, markings like maps, colors pulled from the deep. Opal, rust, storm gray, blush. No two fish are ever the same. Each one a reminder that there is no single way to belong here, no fixed form for beauty, no singular path to survival. Through the slow work of Gyotaku, I've learned to look more closely, to notice those speckled folds behind pectoral fins, and the way colors pull along a tail's edge. Revealing stillness isn't the absence of movement, it's presence, a full and focused kind of being. These ideas shape everything I do. This attention, this way of seeing, comes from something deeper than art or study. I never capture these fish for the sake of a simple art project, or a way of just benefiting me. I was raised to understand what it means to take from the ocean with intention and respect. My family spends countless days on the Gulf, catching what we need to feed our family and provide for the community that surrounds us. I've come to realize not everyone grows up with these teachings. Being able to return to the ancestral ways of living, of providing, of honoring what we take, feels like one of the greatest gifts I could ever carry. Through fishing, I found more than nourishment. I found a way to use not just the flesh for survival, but the body itself through the art of Gyotaku, to tell stories, to preserve memory, to bring the rhythm of nature back into our lives, to show the unfamiliar the details of just how intricate life is. We are still so connected to the natural world that we don't always feel it anymore. Non-dualism is always present. We've evolved, industrialized, and often drifted far from the land and sea that shaped us. But this practice, this act of catching, printing, honoring, pulls me back into alignment. It reminds me of where I come from and how deeply the earth still teaches when we choose to listen. I feel incredibly grateful to share what I have learned to anyone willing to listen, coming from someone who has only lived a short 18 years. Now, as college draws nearer and life begins to shift again, new waters, new rhythms, I know I will always have this to return to. The shorelines that taught me, the gulf that first gave me wonder, the fish that taught me how to notice, and the deep, steady silence that waits. Find your own connection to you, to stillness, and don't lose it in the noise of modern life, in the pull of progress and the rush of being a human. Go beneath the waves, beneath the currents, beneath the surface.